This man's a 20-year-old 8-figure Amazon seller. We can see that right there. Boom. Yeah, 180K trailing 7 days right there. Absolutely bonkers. Let's go through his entire story.
Yoni, good to have you here in Miami, man. Obviously, we came at them heavy with that title, Meet the 20-Year-Old 8-Figure Amazon Seller. So you want to kind of fill everyone in on, who you are, your Amazon business, then we'll get into your backstory too?
Yeah, for sure. So I started selling on Amazon basically freshman year of high school. Before that, I was like selling sneakers and shoes in high school, in middle school. And that's how I got started, like reselling, things like that. Then, I saw people rocking Lambos, things like that with Amazon, so I decided to get into it myself, which is, how I got started in that.
Sure, and that's crazy because that's a very similar backstory to myself with the sneakers and stuff. We were talking about that earlier at lunch. It's how a lot of people that get into Amazon got started, man. So what does your business look like today? Because you're probably not doing what a lot of people interested in getting at this are doing, just flipping stuff, going to retail stores, retail websites, etc. So what does your current day Amazon business actually look like?
So I focus on wholesale. That's probably like 95% of my business now. So it's mostly just calls with my team. I have product sourcers who are analyzing catalogs for me, putting together orders, and then, an operations manager making sure that orders are getting to our warehouse, getting shipped to Amazon. Obviously, in the beginning, though, it's not going to be like that. In the beginning, I was doing all this myself, like, putting orders together, making sure it's shipped, booking the freight. But as you scale on, you can afford to hire more people, which is kind of what I did.
Yeah, so you obviously got started crazy, and you said freshman year of high school, right, with like Arbitrage on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
What did those first couple years look like, though? Because that's where a lot of people are. They're in that phase of trying to get the ball rolling. Like, how far did you scale on Arbitrage? What did that actually look like? And then just take us through the years, basically.
Yeah, so I got to OA probably to around like 2 mil a year, 3 mil a year. And after that, it was kind of like, let me back up actually. Like the first 2 years, I didn't really make any money, which was fine because I'm like working from my parents' house and
you got
I'm in
the
school.
Low risk and everything. Yeah, I feel
exactly.
that. I was the exact same way with sneaker reselling too, just not on Amazon.
Yeah. So I didn't really have to worry about like making money, things like that. But as I started to learn a little bit more, I found out like, okay, I could source this from here, and I started like built up my skills. And that's how I got better at OA and ultimately started doing like $2-3 million a year, which at that point, once I hit that, it was kind of like a ceiling, which is when I, shifted over to wholesale with some of the brands that I was actually doing OA with. And that's how I scaled up.
And that's the tough part, man, because some people think that like the OA business model is the cap. No, I think at where you were and where I've been, right, is the cap, right? $2-3 million a year, because you run into all types of order cancel issues and stuff like that. But in my opinion, man, a lot of these guys that are doing 20, 30, 40K, 50K a month with OA, they'd probably be better off just keeping going with OA rather than taking a complete 180 shift into wholesale and stuff like that, right?
I agree.
Yeah, right? Because you can just go deeper where you already are. I think that makes a lot more sense. Initially, and it's just kind of a lesson in business that it's typically not really the model's issue, it's typically you're the issue, but you're also the solution too and everything, which is pretty cool. But I completely agree on the OA side of things too. You have any like crazy OA or RA, like major hit stories?
Like wins, you're saying?
Oh yeah, man, give me the pools, give me the chlorine. I know you were around for those, so you have any big wins?
I didn't do any crazy things with pools or chlorine, believe it or not, but during COVID, like that was probably one of the craziest times. I found a supplier that was just liquidating like a bunch of groceries, and this was like from OA basically. So like they had a retail store, and I contacted them, and they were like selling things in my local area in New York. So they basically said like, listen, we need to move a lot of inventory, and we're willing to give you a discount if you take everything in one shot. Obviously I don't have a warehouse, so I'm like, I don't know what to do, and these guys only deliver in New York. So I'm like, ship everything to my garage. So I think I had like 10 or 15 pallets of like groceries coming to
the crib? At the parents' crib?
At the crib,
yeah, holy crap.
My parents actually my dad didn't bug out, my mom bugged out. And I was just FBMing throughout COVID.
Yeah, FBM was lit. For those of you guys who weren't around then, they actually shut down FBA for non-essential goods, essentially, which is crazy. So you had to FBM stuff.
Exactly.
Right? And that's a constant, ongoing battle. Any of you guys who are just getting into it are probably going to run into in the future, right? You might get the bedroom from the parents, right? But it's going to be an ongoing battle for the garage or potentially the living room here and there, right? Or the spouse, the wife, etc. Like I saw this fun, really funny tweet from this dude one time. He said, if she's willing to FBM with you, she's the one. I think there's lots of lessons in there, right? For sure, man.
For sure.
Absolutely. So you were killing it with OA specifically, right? But obviously you wanted to grow, right? And you made virtually the absolutely correct decision to get into wholesale. What does that initial transition actually look like, though? Because some people watch and so probably doing some pretty good money with OA. They're just not quite sure those next steps, man. So what should they be doing?
So I'm really big on going deep in a niche. For me, it was grocery, but like, for example, if you're doing OA, you're kind of scattered around, like you're not focusing on a specific category. But what I would say is pick a few brands that obviously you're not going to get like a Nike, but pick a few smaller brands that, you know, you do well with and try to, you know, backtrack, find similar brands to that in the category, contact that brand and just familiarize yourself with the niche, the brand, what they sell, what they could be doing better on Amazon. Because if you really want to get into wholesale, you have to bring value to these brands and these distributors, you know, by placing large orders. So that's what's important.
Yeah, can you break down the difference between brands and distributors for people who might not be familiar?
Yeah, so a brand is basically just, you know, the manufacturer and you're buying directly from them. And, you know, best case scenario is they give you an exclusive agreement where, you know, you're selling their products and doing marketing and, you know, PPC and things like that. And then a distributor is just someone who the brand sells to and they sell in big quantities and bulk like that.
So kind of like some of those trucks you see on the highway, like XYZ distributor,
Exactly.
XYZ wholesaler, etc.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best starting point for someone to get into wholesale? Are we Googling distributors? Are we going to trade shows? Are we hitting up the brands we already sell with OA? What are you thinking?
So I've actually never been to a trade show, which, you know, shocks a lot of people.
Because you're from a great location to do that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? New York City, man? Or
Yeah.
New York City area?
So yeah, I've actually never been to a trade show. I don't know, you know, some people, they find good suppliers from them. If you know, if you have meetings set up, things like that, it could definitely be useful. But Google, man, I mean, Google is the best way to, like, you know, find distributors in your local area, which is what I recommend doing. And, you know, building relationships with people who are local.
Yeah, what are some of those keywords you want to put in on Google to find those suppliers initially?
So it's actually been a while since I did, you know, my own supplier research, but just grocery distributors, HBA distributors, and obviously, you know, you're not going to find any specific ones on the first page or so, but digging deeper into it, that's when you find ones that are not really exposed to too many sellers. Because, you know, if you're searching in the common things that everyone else is typing into Google, then those people are getting, you know, bombarded by other Amazon sellers, and there's no way to find anything profitable, really.
Yeah, and what are you saying in those outreach messages and calls to the brands, actually, or distributors?
So that's something that I think sets us apart, is that, like, me, is that I'm not too, like, you know, overly, like, trying to convince the brand on the first email. It's more so just introing, like, hey, this is Yoni from XYZ. We're a distributor and we wanted to open an account with you. Can you send me some more info on what your MOQs are and things like that? And then that's how you get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. And so one thing I think a lot of people are going to be very curious about, myself included, right, is when they see these big numbers, especially from, you know, someone who's, you know, only 20 years old, or me when I was just getting started, you know, 22, 23,
right,
etc. How the hell did you get access to capital to buy this stuff?
So it was a lot of credit cards in the beginning. And then after like 3 years of doing this, you kind of build a relationship with your bank. And this isn't always, but I was able to get like a good relationship and a good rep with my bank. Since it's a local bank, it's not like a big bank. And I was able to get a line of credit to really scale up.
Sure, and obviously using leverage like totally adds risk. You don't necessarily need to do that, but that has been a massive catalyst for your growth, it seems like, and definitely of my growth as well, too.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like, you look at it like 10% interest, for example, on a loan is a lot. But if you're making 10%, you know, net margin...
yeah, 30% ROI on that capital. Yeah, no,
exactly.
7 times a year, whatever, yeah.
And you're, you know, turning the inventory like 3 or 4 times a year at a minimum, that's, you know, you're printing money.
For sure. And so you mentioned your team as well. Do you kind of want to break down, what that actually looks like, man? Are they domestic employees? Are they virtual assistants? How does that work?
So they're all based in the Philippines, which, is not always the easiest thing to do. But once you kind of like understand their culture and, understand how to manage people in a good, fun, cultural way, then that's when your team really could start to grow, and you don't have to hire people here. But I have 3 buyers who are basically, sourcing, going through catalogs, and then I have an operations manager and she handles like, all FBA shipments, all deliveries, all inventory, things like that. And then I have an assistant who just handles like outreach to suppliers and things like that.
And the crazy irony of this is that these virtual assistants in countries like India, Pakistan, the Philippines, they're incredibly affordable because the US dollar goes so much further there. So you can get a great employee for like, $300, $700,
right.
Which is very ironic considering right now the kids you went to high school with, the kids I went to high school with are either studying hard or working very hard for, a position that might be taken advantage of by people in the Philippines that are super talented, super hardworking for 1/5 of the cost. So it's crazy the way we can take advantage of that geographic arbitrage, in 2024, man.
Exactly.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's just one of the big benefits of online business. And you've never met any of these people in person,
No.
right? You never filled out like a form for them or whatever, right? That's just a good, like a virtual assistant editing this video right now. It's just an amazing, like very beneficial thing we can take advantage of. And, these days, man, it's just another one of the benefits of Amazon business as well. So you mentioned like warehouses and prep centers and stuff, man. What does your operation look like in regards to using a warehouse or a prep center? What are the difference and benefits?
So I actually don't have a warehouse. I have 2 prep centers that I use. There's pros and cons to both. Pros are, maybe you'll get some cheaper rates using your own warehouse, and, you can have a lot more control over that, and, inspect the inventory faster. Cons are, running a warehouse is a whole nother business in itself. I like to focus 100% on buying and opening new accounts. And I think especially as new sellers, until you're at like 5 to 6 million a year, your focus should only be on buying right now too.
Yeah, because that's where the upside is, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have your own warehouse, you have to manage the employees. You have to buy the supplies. You have to deal with the warehouse lease, right? When you use a prep center, typically you pay a little bit more overall per unit, right? But you don't have to worry about any of that that headspace essentially,
Right.
with all those issues and such, man, and everything. So you're obviously super young, ton of success with OA, tons of success with wholesale. What's the path forward, man? Is the path wholesale, private label? You want to get into other types of business? What are you thinking?
So yeah, it's definitely, getting into private label. I have a few things that I'm working on right now, and it's just continuing wholesale. I think this is a business that, could last 5-10 years with brand relationships specifically, because, we do a great job for the brands that we sell. And then at the same time, just growing the private label side as well.
Absolutely, man. And just something I'm curious about, like as you were growing, were you, talking to other Amazon sellers a lot? Like, do you have a good network of sellers, or is it pretty much just like, I got to figure this out on my own?
So something that's surprising is I didn't have a crazy, network of friends and Amazon sellers. But I started posting on Instagram, probably a year or 2 into it, and then I found out about the community and everything
crazy,
like
man,
that.
how helpful that stuff is. Yeah, and it's free too.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, because think about it, right? If someone's invisible, they have no chance of getting randomly plugged into a BOLO or a lead, or randomly plugged into a group buy, or the opportunity to do, software, affiliate marketing, etc. Right? Like we've been able to do, and everything, man. So it's good stuff. Obviously, absolutely killing the game. If people want to, follow you, DM me any questions, such, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Yoni_CEO, and on Instagram at YoniSimon1.
Boom. So y'all check the man out right there. You'll see some beautiful big orange bars and some good game. We're talking about more content coming soon as well.
For sure.
And such. So make sure you follow my boy right there. Thanks a lot for coming on the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.